No whammies, 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 no whammies. Is it gonna happen? Come on, you can do it. Ah, yes! It worked. I'm normal again. I have no idea what I did to fix it, but it's fixed, and I am normal. Okay. All right. Sorry. 6 minutes late. Had to wait for Streamlabs to finish re-downloading. And now it's all back to normal. Didn't ask me to log in. Didn't ask me to do any weird things. It's all normal. Woo! Okay. There we go. So, I can put this on live chat. Bam. Monkey butts check. I'm checked. Lights on. Cameras on. Crazy shirt is on. Here we go. Okay, so right off the bat, they've dismissed part of Ryan Cohen's lawsuit against Ryan Cohen, basically establishing he was an officer. But they did say he should have been aware via public information that the stock buybacks would result in him becoming a 10% owner. So I'm not quite sure what that means. I think the court is saying he's not financially liable for paying back the estate for 16B violation, but he still should have known. I think that's kind of what they're saying with this ruling from the court, which my guess is if no money's coming out of this, then Goldberg's gonna go meh and leave it. Because his job is to get money, not to just sort of slap the wrist of somebody and be like, you did wrong. His job is to get money for the estate. He gets paid when he gets money for the estate. So I think that's that. Apparently something similar should be coming for Hudson Bay, because Hudson Bay, just like the Cohen case, it's gone 3 months without anyone filing anything. So a ruling is probably coming. I think federal courts have to give a 90 days to give a ruling on stuff like this. So I guess we'll see, right? Who knows if there's going to be any announcements this week. I know there's lots of hype for announcements because 420, bro. But we'll see. N9 says first. N9 also says if Roaring Kitty tweets on 420, he used to have to take a hit of a joint. No, I don't. Chris 9, Houston. Thoughts on CFTC agreed with UBS on their no margin request for Credit Suisse legacy swaps. What do you think of its effects on MOAS? Someone has to pay in the end. We talked about this a little bit yesterday. What they're saying is, oh no, you can avoid closing them out now. Because what they don't want is they don't want the market to explode because UBS is closing out these swaps. But if the market explodes anyway, because Trump, because housing market, because bank explosion, because GameStop finally pushed the button, etc., they're not going to be off the hook of that. And this is why I think Switzerland is desperately trying to get UBS to leave the country so that Switzerland is no longer on the hook for it. Because, like, you know, you have your brokerages and your family funds. They're responsible for their plays, right? If they can't fulfill their plays, then their prime broker, you know, their investment bank, whatever, is going to be responsible for covering those plays. If the prime broker can't do it, one of those big banks can't do it, then the central bank is responsible. And possibly the National Treasury. So Switzerland cannot afford to print enough money to bail out UBS on what they gathered from Credit Suisse in this. They just can't. It's like $40,000 per citizen right now. I'm not talking about when those swaps, the liabilities become in the trillions. That's just, you're looking at millions of dollars a citizen in that case. And they can't print enough Swiss francs to take care of that. So they're trying to regulate UBS so hard that UBS goes, meh, and then leaves. It becomes somebody else's problem. That's what seems like the Swiss government's trying to do. So yeah, the CFTC is sort of like cradling them like a baby. So maybe they're dumb enough to leave and go to the United States, and the United States will be like, we welcome this giant mega bank coming here and having their headquarters here, and then they bring all this like toxic liability with them, and then everything blows up anyway, and then the United States government, who in the past could print as much money as they want, now that we're no longer going to be the reserve currency, it's going to be a little bit harder to get away with that. Thanks, Donald Trump. But historically, the United States government can just print, bail out, and everything's fine. Now they can print. It's probably just going to lead to rampant inflation because no one wants our money anymore, and then more problems. But here we are. And 9, thoughts on Region Forum's post on the cat failures, like 70 odd or whatever billion errors, 77 billion, I believe, errors. We're looking at like 10 to 15 billion a day of these failures to deliver. So yeah, this is what happens when the SEC fires its entire enforcement arm and the short sellers have their foot on the nuts of the White House. They are really going to get away with it all. The only company that's going to become illegal to naked short sale is going to be DJT. Everyone else will probably be fair game until the system breaks and everything collapses and yada, yada, yada. And 9 also says Kilmar Abrego Garcia moved out of CCOT apparently. Wonder where he's at. Hilton de Salvador. I found it interesting, that his head wasn't shaved and his beard wasn't shaved. When all those people staying in CCOT, they're shaved. He's wearing a hat, but you can see that he has kind of a mohawk going on. Kind of, one of those like thick mohawks that athletes have that kind of just goes from the back of the head up. So he obviously wasn't staying in CCOT, if that's the case. And then it comes out that he was transferred to a lower security prison, but then kept in solitary confinement the entire time, which is torture. I mean, the dude didn't commit a crime. He was in the U.S. legally. He had a work permit. He had a visa, and they just sent him on his way based on old information from a cop who went to prison for making shit up to make arrests. So, like, the dude doesn't have a criminal record. He's here legally. He has a work permit, and we sent him off. So the reason why they couldn't get him at CCOT was because he wasn't at CCOT for some reason. Are others not at CCOT that are at this other lower security prison? I don't think Abrego Garcia had the information because he was kept in solitary that entire time. Yeah, this is on the eve of a whole bunch of Venezuelans being rounded up by ICE and put onto buses, awaiting to be deported to El Salvador tomorrow. They filed some motions with the court that a restraining order be granted, keeping ICE from detaining these folks. The court needs to deputize somebody to get ahead, to just take someone from the administration and throw their ass in jail for criminal contempt and hold them there until the situation is rectified. And if the next person who comes along in that position of authority doesn't do it, you arrest them, throw their ass in jail for criminal contempt, and you just pick off the West Wing until there's no one left. You just keep doing it. And the minute the West Wing becomes completely unfunctional, it's already dysfunctional, but when it becomes unfunctional, then they're just going to have to, the last person will be, well, I don't want to go to prison, and they will order the release of these folks and the return of them. So that's what the courts have to do. And I don't know if was what's his name, Bosing, the judge in that case, if he's actually going to have the nuts to do that. We'll see, I guess. Charles Bronson, Houston. I'm new to the YouTuber thing. Explain the different avenues you can make your income. Views of a single video, number of subscribers, endorsements, etc. I don't really have endorsements. Every once in a while, someone sends me $50 and I put their poster up here. That's as much endorsement as I get. And then Next Level Chimneys did a whole bunch of work and built an entire chimney for me and put in a wood stove, and they get a permanent ad there because of that. You have to have 4,000 viewing hours and 500 subscribers to get monetized. Depending on the info you do, like I average maybe a penny per view. So if I get 1,000 views, that's $10. 10,000 views. No, 1,000 views, that's $10. If I get super chats, I think YouTube takes 30% of it. So if you send $10, I get $7, they get $3. If I were smart or competent or either of those things, I would have lots of clips. When BLSP Black Death was doing his video class, he was voluntarily doing clips for like 5 months. It was fantastic. Lots of clips got out there. A lot of people saw them, and my income did go up. Not by a huge amount, but it went up. I don't make that much off YouTube. I do like $1,200 a month, $1,400 a month. Could be a lot more if I had a sophisticated, smooth operation, but I would need like a producer to do all that stuff, and that producer is going to cost $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So I don't make that yet. And maybe if I had a producer, I could make enough to then pay them, but at the moment, I do this for fun, and I do this so I have viewers for my charity shows where I raise more than $1,000, 40 something months in a row, which is all I care about really. So yeah, it's what I do get are awesome shirts in the mail, so that makes it worthwhile. That right there, awesome shirts in the mail, and treats for Monkey every once in a while, right? Yeah. For dog with chemo, she was like running all over the yard, having a great time yet today. So weather's beautiful. It's like 70 degrees out there, just perfect. But yeah, that's those are things you look at for YouTuber thing. If you are making YouTube videos in the financial sphere, I think you make more per view than you do if you're making videos for kids, because kids don't have any income. So you have to need like 4 or 5 times as many views to get that penny. So it might take 4 or 5 viewers to get a penny per view, or the penny you get. But then again, kids do have a lot more eyeballs on YouTube because they got nothing to do all day except stare at YouTube. So they can really amass the view counts. I lucked into this becoming monetized because I had gone viral on several other people's YouTube shows. And before I ever made a public video, my subscriber count was already at 5,000. I had never made a video before. And so I made my first video, and I think it got like 35,000 views in that first couple of days, and I was instantly monetized as a result. So I was over the 500 required subscribers, and I got over the 4,000 viewing hours in one video. And I was recording videos because I was like, oh, I'll record a video and then I'll edit it and I'll post it. It took like a week for me to make a video because I'm incompetent at editing. And then someone's like, why are you taking all this time to do this? Just go live. And I was like, go live? Ooh, ooh, ooh. And then I learned how to go live. And then people were like, what? Why don't you have super chats turned on? I'm like, what the fuck is a super chat? Because I never watched these videos, these type of videos. I never done them. So it took a lot of folks teaching me how to do things like Enraged Goose Productions designed my little border thingy in the windows. And then I would go live at like 1 o'clock in the morning just to figure out how to set this thing up. And people would give me advice. Because this setup made no sense to me whatsoever. I felt like a boomer. I was like, what am I doing here? I don't understand. Where does the TikTok go? And yeah, so now I feel mildly competent, and then things like yesterday happened where I get squished and I have no idea why. So here I am in Technicolor glory, doing the bare minimum I can. Chris Taylor pulling up in fourth. Hey. Chris 9. Also, how do you see next month's for potential catalyst for MOAS RC going to pull that trigger finally? I must squeeze and destroy shorts because retail came for one reason, MOAS. I cannot enjoy the vibe anymore like in 21-22. RC should forget about more dilution. We need to win finally. RC just cannot keep up with the good vibes with tweets. We save this company, reward us. 100%. Looking at the size of the swaps UBS has taken out, I have no idea their term length, but my guess is there's going to be swaps due probably at the end of May, beginning of June, and we're going to see things go puny pop again at that time. It also feels like the options for the 16th of May are starting to build up the way they did last year. Let's do a GME options chain. Let's have a look-see at what all is going on there. Go like that. Hey, look at that. What's up? Okay. So we need 16th of May. And let's look at these call options here. So we're starting to build these up. The 30s are at 20,000, right? Granted, this time last year, these things were at 120,000, something ridiculous like that, 60,000. I can't remember how much Roaring Kitty had built up for the Maze. But he did most of his buying, I think, in this coming week last year. And I think he did most of his buying by the 28th of April. So I wouldn't doubt if we see these numbers start to climb. Remember, the stock price is at $10. He bought a bunch of 12s. So now it's 26. Looks like somebody's buying a whole bunch of 30s. We've been bouncing 27 and change almost every day this last week. And these are still cheap. I mean, it's $1.38 for $3.50, less than $3.50. Where are we at now? 27.27 after hours. So we're $2.73 out of the money, and it's still $1.38 for a month away. The implied volatility is still below 100% on all these near the monies. That's insane. So the price is cheap. I'm basically planning on playing things by the day. Mostly on Mondays and Tuesdays, leading up to probably that week of the 16th. So here's my plan. We got to go for the April 25th. Those are what's coming next. Right now, the 37s, they're technically in the money, even though we closed at 26.78. 37s? What are you talking about, 37? This is 27. What are you doing, weirdo? There we go. Okay. I don't know what's going on, why the blue was there. Okay, the 26.5 are what are in the money. I'll probably buy Monday at open because I totally fucking... Things get busy, and then you're like, oh, at 12:55 p.m. I'm going to do this, and then it passes by, and you got distracted, and you didn't buy. But I'll probably buy a whole bunch right around here, 6-7 calls, somewhere in there at 27, and I'll day trade these, because, if it opens at 27, then it might be going to 27.8, or 28 at some point during the day. I'm going to count on that, sell, buy some puts at 28, write it back down to 26.8 or whatever it will end up, and I'll sell those. And I'm just going to ride those up and down Mondays and Tuesdays, because the theta decay gets a little iffy the following days. And then hopefully next Friday before close, I'll buy a whole bunch for Monday and do that all over again. I'm just going to ride those for the next couple of weeks and just amass, a little war chest. And then when it comes to the week of the 16th, so that Friday before, which is May 9th? Yeah. So May 9th, I will then buy as many as I possibly can, maybe $1 or $2 out of the money for the following week. So right now, those things are selling for $1 or $2 out of the money for the following week, are selling for... God, why are you doing this again? Why are you showing this at 39? What is wrong with you? There you go. $1 or $2 out of the money. So I can get 28s for 58 cents. So if I can get something that's $1.50 out of the money for less than $1, I will buy hundreds of these for that week. Because if it ends up like last year, where we climbed $15 Sunday night before Monday morning, then each one of these things I pay $50 for, I'm now making $2,000 off of almost. So, because the implied volatility shoots through the roof, and makes the premiums on these go to $500 just for the premium at the money. And yeah, you can make $1,500 to $2,000 per if that's the case. So I will buy something like that the Friday before, and hopefully I'll have $4,000 to $6,000 to play with by then. So that gets me 14 per thousand. Yeah, I could have more than 100 or close to 100 of these by the time that week rolls around. So if that's the case, and I can have a couple $100,000 by that Monday, because things go puny pop like they did last year, get a Roaring Kitty, YOLO update, etc. You can flip that into puts. You can buy 2,000 puts with that money at the money. That rides down $5-6. Now you're at $1 million. And then you flip it back into calls again, and that Tuesday morning it jumps $30-40, just like it did last year, both in June and May. Then you're set. Done. You just bought thousands and thousands and thousands of calls, are all worth thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars each, and you can sit there. And if Ryan Cohen wants to dilute, if the opening price on Tuesday is absolutely bonkers, talking like $75 to $80, you can then buy $50 puts for, puts right now that are $20 below, it's 27 for $7 put, or $10 put. $10 put is a penny. So if this thing opens at $85, right, a $50 put will probably be between 1 cent and 10 cents. So you can buy thousands of those. And if Ryan Cohen dilutes and this price goes back down to $25 because he dilutes, you just made $2,500 off every single one of those suckers for a penny's investment, or $10 investment, $1 investment, somewhere in there. That's going to be my hedge, and that's what, if I do that this time around, then Ryan Cohen isn't going to dilute, and we'll have MOAS. That's how we're going to do it. I will sacrifice that if these weeks turn out like they did last year. So anyway, oh crap! Did I ever do the first intro? This might be the first intro. I'll take it. I'll choose to believe this is the first intro, and I totally meant to do that. That was on purpose. There. Okay. But well, sup BBBY, sup No Labs? Well, we got the BBBY update at the top. No Labs, I know nothing. Dustin Height, bought some Tesla puts for earnings. Wish me luck. Happy birthday. Oh yeah, Tesla's on Tuesday as well. Here's what somebody said. They said Tesla is probably going to announce a huge government contract to mess with everyone who bought puts for earnings. I think that is very possible. Whatever they announce, it probably will be a complete lie. But the market will, oh, okay, and then it will pop green. Most companies don't make announcements like that around earnings, but Elon Musk always does. Like last year, when they're doing terribly, when the stock price down like 140 or something, and it looked like it was dropping more, and the earnings were looking miserable. That's when he made his announcements like, on August 8th, I'm going to, we're going to unveil the robo-taxi. And I was like, oh my God, oh, it's amazing. And the stock price flew. And then August 8th came around, he did not unveil the robo-taxi. It was like 2 months before he unveiled the robo-taxi. And it turns out it was just like not a robo-taxi. And you had all those robots come out there, like, hello, I'm a robot, I'm AI. And it turns out it was just some guy behind a screen in Orange County operating the robot and talking to people. So yeah, he'll figure out some sort of grift to get the stock price to go bing at the wrong time. But I still may gamble on it. We'll see. Yeah, I still may gamble on it. Charles Bronson. How does reverse repo look? What happens when it depletes? More money comes from thin air? It'll have to. Because once the banks do not have reverse repo money to give, it means they don't have money to give, period. That means their depositors' deposits are in danger. I think this money is getting eaten up because the depositors have been taking money out, right? And then bad bets by the banks on things like commercial real estate, etc., are not paying off for them. Instead, are vaporizing their bottom line. They have a lot of unrealized losses, and they're going to have to admit these losses are here at some point. I mean, you got banks like Royal Bank of Canada have $14 billion in Evergrande bonds that they'll never get paid back on, ever. Ever. That is $0. That's $14 billion depositors' money that is actually bupkis. So these banks are at some point going to have to realize these losses when they start not being able to back their depositors' withdrawals. And I think we're getting close to that as reverse repo starts to go to zero, which means bailouts. The banks are going to be in such trouble that the Federal Reserve is going to have to bail them out and the Treasury is going to have to bail them out. So I think we're getting close to that. And this is why everyone's looking at the everything squeeze, because, you know, bonds have been getting naked shorted, stocks have been getting naked shorted, all the good investments have turned bad, you know, real estate, etc. So, you know, corporate debt is out of control, consumer debt is out of control, car repos are at an all-time high, delinquencies on mortgages are at an all-time high. Zillow, prior to the inauguration, said home prices should go up 2% this year. Now they're saying it's going to drop by 1.5%. The forecasts are bad, and the comeuppance is coming. The comeuppance is like over their shoulder, and when's it gonna pounce? So sit and wait. It's more money's gonna have to come from thin air because that's the only way they can do it. Kevin Ryan in Houston, happy birthday. Gonna be a long weekend of thumb twiddling. Oh, thumb twiddling. Maybe some chin scratching, because today's ruling, I think, definitely puts us some chin scratching zone there. Looks like a lot of stuff is getting wrapped up by the plan man. So, yes. Mr. E-Machine, can a president use an executive order to make anything he wants happen? Like socialized healthcare or taxing the rich? According to Trump, yes. But Trump will never do that because those are things that help people. So he only uses executive orders that can hurt people. So I've not seen him do one that's been like, wow, our lives just got better with that. I've not seen that happen yet. Says54, guy said El Salvador is alive. A lone congressman has shown have a spine, but also balls of steel. Is the resistance starting to take shape? Murkowski says some are scared, but he didn't flinch, no fear. I think Murkowski's fear is not the same as Van Halen's fear, where, you know, he's like, I'm going to go down to this foreign country. I'm going to demand to meet with my constituent, and we're going to talk. Whereas Murkowski's fear is, if I go against Trump, Elon's going to spend $100 million to primary me in the next election. That's her fear. And her fear is such a nimby-pimby little pussy fear that it's like, oh no, I'm going to get primaried in my election. If I don't win, I'll be stuck with this gigantic pension and free healthcare for the rest of my life. Oh, boo-hoo. Right? That's her fear, is that Elon's going to spend a boatload of money to primary her. And that's, what a stupid thing to be scared of. What an absolutely dumb thing to be scared of. Meanwhile, David Hogue over at, he's the deputy chair of the Democratic National Committee. He is actively raising funds to primary Democratic incumbents who don't resist. Good. And James Carville's all pissy and mad about it. I'm going to sue David Hogue. Shut the fuck up, you old geezer. Like, the fact is we've got 70 and 80-year-olds stuck in Congress who don't have the stones to stand up and actually be in opposition. Yes, they should be primaried. They should. Get them out of the party. Get people who are actually going to do stuff in the party. It doesn't matter. You can have all the power in the world, but if you aren't going to use that power ever, even if you never use that political capital to do good, then what's the point? Why are you even here? That was Governor Wall's point. He was making these speeches saying political capital isn't there to be saved; it's there to be used. So let's use it. And so David Hogue is actively getting money together from small donors, and he's going to primary all of these stagnant idiots that have taken over the Democratic Party. Get some young blood in there, get some excitement in there, get people who are going to make change into those seats, and not the folks who are like, I'm going to make change and then never actually do anything. So I am all for doing that, shaking it up. I mean, you can't be any worse than what they've managed to accomplish over the last, 20 years anyway. So yeah, start over, get it new. Put the fear of God into those incumbents the way Murkowski is scared of Elon Musk. That's what they need to do. Because then you'll get big old honking steel balls coming in and being in all those seats. So yeah. Bill Coin. I wonder if RC will put a stake in Dracula's heart, Trump, by starting MOAS, setting off a chain of events that rocks Wall Street. Well, the fact that he's as upset with Trump as he has been over all the tariffs yo-yoing, tells me that he might be over it. He is a spurned lover at this point. He's like, I backed you. I spent money to get you elected, and you do this to me? Along with the other Ryan from Flexport. Like, these guys are basically seeing their incomes get vaporized by the man they chose to elect. We got folks in the Trump administration saying that these losers, all have to do is sit around and play video games all day and then collect Medicaid. Oh, okay, way to trash the clientele of Ryan's business. You got other folks, Project 2025, wanting to outlaw video games entirely, something that Trump last year was musing about. Okay, way to vaporize, the entire core of the business this man owns. Yeah, and then the tariffs are destroying shipping. And that's Ryan Peterson's entire thing with Flexport is shipping, and it's like these soybean farmers that are all like, I voted for you. Why are you destroying my business? Your business is getting destroyed because Trump pissed off China, and China's like, what do red states sell? Farm shit. So we're going to target farm shit. They're not buying U.S. cattle. They're buying Australian cattle. They're not buying U.S. soybeans. They're buying Brazilian soybeans. They're not buying U.S. oil. They're buying Canadian oil, right? They are targeting red state industries specifically to hurt you because Trump is being a dick to everybody. So yeah, because you voted for him, you're going to be facing the pain. That's what you voted for, dude. I know you really, 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 really wanted to be able to call your ag workers racial slurs and not get in trouble for it. But now you don't have any ag workers because he's deporting them all. And what you do manage to grow has no customers. So congratulations. Your dumbass racism destroyed your entire livelihood. And now you're vaporized. Well, I'm having a hard time finding sympathy for you. I understand your plight, and your plight was entirely preventable. But you did it anyway. So, oh well. I mean, that stove was really red hot, and you're like, I'm gonna put my hand on it. Ow! Why would the stove do this to me? I voted for the stove. Like, I don't know what else to tell you, man. Yeah. Shit sucks. But you put that stick in your spokes yourself, man. So, I'm glad you learned your lesson. That this guy does not have your best interest at heart. That he thinks you suck. And you're an idiot and you're a loser. And he will punish you all day long for existing. So, oh well. That's what you get. That is it. Ta-da! Oh. Yeah, so, oh well. Tough titty. Since 54, Trump is attacking Van Hollen as performative. I think he's jealous about all the attention the congressman has received. Not only stole the spotlight, but also a positive one at that. Art of the squeal. Yeah, For a guy whose entire life has been performative, it's like rings hollow. He's just there for the photo op. Oh, really? He's just there for the photo op? I'm sure you with Kid Rock dressed as Evil Knievel was not a photo op in any way, shape, or form. Chris 9 Crab Chinese stocks went to 2K plus. It's really annoying to just wait. Last year was a perfect setup, and they made a big mistake with dilution. They better come up with MOAS soon. Agreed. Can I read? Happy birthday, HW. Come on, Ryan, release GME and bring MOAS. What's your plans, and what would you recommend people do with their new tendies? Not financial advice. There's a couple options. And some of the options depend upon the future of this nation, right? So if the economy blows up enough that people just get rid of Trump, like he's out of here, and we go back to the former status quo, which will build value, will be respected worldwide. It might not be the most ideal situation, but if we got some folks in there who aren't trying to actively destroy the economy, then this is an economy you can invest in. If economy blows up, we get our win, but Trump is still in power, he's going to still erode international trust in the US dollar and in US corporations and US investments. So probably the best bet to do is to get your money out of things that are US focused, meaning US real estate, US stocks, US dollars. Put your cash in overseas investments, put your cash in gold, or other mineral commodities, or just take your money and switch currencies with it. Put it into euros, put it into British pounds, put it into Canadian dollars, something other than the US dollar. Because if the US dollar continues to lose ground against all these other currencies, then your buying power is getting smaller as well. If you take $100 and you buy 90 euros with it, right? And a year from now, those 90 euros can buy $200. Well, then you did okay. You managed to stave it off. If you buy something like gold, gold holds its value across any currencies. So you can take that gold, you can buy it in US dollars, you can sell it in Swiss francs or whatever. I think if you're going to store your cash overseas, you store your cash overseas in something other than US dollars. So if you are one of those folks who's going to make like a Caymans account, you deposit your cash in the Caymans and you ask for it to be transferred into euros or something else. Maybe a smattering. Maybe you have chunk in euros, chunk in pounds, chunk in yen, chunk in whatever, Swiss francs, and you just go from there. And like you when this thing goes and crashes, right, there's going to be a bottom of the SPY. So you may still come out on top in the end if you look for that bottom and you scoop it up, right? Because there will be massive inflation, so the dollars that you spend on that will still like fly, just because the dollar's getting weaker, so it's gonna take more dollars to buy those stocks, and you'll get more dollars in the end out of it. I just don't know if the purchasing power of those dollars will remain in parity for very long for things from outside the US, if that's the case. So yeah, gotta kind of like think about that, I guess. We Wild, HW, going back to work on Sunday after working all week from home due to Passover. Really don't want to. Can GME, No Labs, GMGF, or RIP already so I could buy a house in Greece, leave my job, and move already? You and me both, my man. I mean, I got a former coworker. He and his wife, they've retired. They're moving to Portugal. Portugal is getting a little tired of all the foreigners moving in, especially if you go to resort cities or the big cities. But you can still go to small towns in Portugal that are kind of dying, get a screaming deal for a house, and sort of be part of the revitalization of some of those smaller towns. You might not be on the ocean, but you still have a great Mediterranean climate. You can grow grapes. You can do whatever it is you want in your retirement. I have two current coworkers who recently moved back from Portugal. They did not have a good time. They're lesbians, and one is Hispanic, Mexican descent. And I think the anti-immigrant homophobia and racism that they experienced, like little trifecta, really affected their desire to live in Portugal. So you may want to look out for things like that if you are a minority or if you are, LGBT, whatever, and know that already being an immigrant in a country that's getting a little sick of all the people moving there because it's the cheap cost of living, which is making things very expensive for them. Like they're complaining that the average rent for a 1-bedroom in Lisbon is €1,000 a month. Whereas we're like, €1,000 a month, give me 4, right? So they're getting priced out of their homes because we still see it as a screaming bargain. And there's probably going to be pushback for all of that coming. So just gotta keep those things in mind. So I think if you're looking at overseas, look at the places that want them to come in. The small towns in Spain or Italy or Greece that are like paying people to move there. Think about that. If you don't need the hustle and bustle of the downtown urban center and you're totally fine with like small little walkable communities out in the rural sticks, then be cool with that. I'm pretty okay with that. I don't need to be in the big hustle bustle of the city. And distances in Europe are so tiny, it seems like you can get to the city in no time anyway. And so I don't feel like, being in the rural area is that much of a detriment. Jimmy D. I think MOAS will be having a ton of puts print when carry trade comes undone. No technical limit on how high VIX will go. Agreed, Jimmy D. I think you can take your winnings and short the market at the same time and compound that stuff to 20x, 40x, 100x, 1000x. And when you feel like it's been hammered as hard as it can do and the carry trades are all finished and various companies have been obliterated and hedge funds have just disappeared, you can then perhaps buy back in. But I think you are absolutely right, Jimmy D, that the $7 to $20 trillion in carry trades that need to be unwound at some point are probably coming. And if Jerome Powell raises rates at all, then those 10 years are going above 5%. Those 10 years go above 5%. That destroys everybody, right? The yen gets more strong, and then the yen carry trades go belly up. It's a weird kind of like limbo because the yen gets stronger, which means they have more have to pay back. And if the Japanese raise rates, then like, oh shit, we have more payback there. But our rates should be dropping, which would make the carry trades more likely to happen. But because they're actually going up, it means everyone doesn't want our treasuries, which makes them harder to sell, which means you're selling them for less, which means when you do finally sell, you won't have the money needed to pay back the Japanese for those loans. It's a very weird balance. There's like a lot of variables on each side. And if any one of those things moves too far, the thing gets out of whack. And it'll just be like, it'll go bonk, and then all the stuff comes sliding back down to Japan. And that's kind of where we are. The chill face, hey, sorry if you already brought it up this week, but have you given thoughts on the 4chan hack and how the admin and mods had .gov email account registration? Oh, I definitely believe that a lot of folks in 4chan were part of NSA, FBI, ATF, DEA, right? Yeah, I've little doubt about that. Also, there was also a whole bunch of horrible racist monsters that were in 4chan too, and that's why if you're going to make a haven for like conspiracy, racist, sexist, terroristic nut jobs, you're going to attract folks in there who are going to be actively investigating you, figuring out ways to entrap you and remove you from society. So yeah, keep your eyes on those things. And now that those 4chan folks can't trust 4chan anymore, where are they going to go, right? There's still 8chan, right? There's still, 8chan is like even worse than 4chan. Are they going to end up, going back to like Stormfront forums? Are they going to be on Twitter more? Where are they going? they're gonna go somewhere. I don't think they're gonna be staying at 4chan anymore. I mean, on Reddit, or where are they going? I don't know. But it's hilarious though that all those Dweebelheimers who thought they were anonymous on 4chan have all been found out, and the hackers have all their info. Haha. Sometimes sommelier. If hedge funds get bailed out due to extraordinary event, Moas, does that have any bearing on whether we get paid? The bailout will be what's paying us. That's my feeling. Most of the bailouts right now are due to the hedge funds having to sell off their bonds to meet liquidity requirements. But the problem is that's lowering their collateral, which is raising their liability. And so the bailouts are the Federal Reserve buying those bonds at higher than market prices to save those guys. But that does not change the fact that they still have a whole bunch of liability coming. And it just gives them a customer to sell their assets to when the bomb blows up. Ford ZZ9, happy birthday, Houston. Like and subscribe, people. What's your take on all the closing lawsuits of BBBY play, and how much longer do you think it could be? The fact that it's closing is magnificent. It's giving us closure on stuff that should have just been done a long time ago. As for the timeline, it feels for the first time since those first couple of months after DK Butterfly appeared, that things are moving really quickly towards resolution. There's a hearing on Tuesday about basically taking all of the complaints or all of the creditors who claim that it's like suspect creditors who claim that they should be paid, putting them under one thing and just dealing with them all at once. Basically meaning, let's take all these squirrely ones and put them under one court case, and then just dismiss it all, and we'll be done. At this point, I think DK Butterfly has more money coming in than there is owed to creditors, which guarantees us a waterfall, at the very least. So we will be getting cash at some point. The Hudson Bay case will determine just how many shares will be entitled to waterfall. And we haven't really had definitive resolution onto what the actual share total is, total shares outstanding. So that's one thing that has to get resolved before there's a waterfall. I'm really hoping that it ends up being like 117 million shares, somewhere around there, so that the $1 billion to $30 billion, depending on what was settled in the executive lawsuit, or the board lawsuit, comes our way. So that, could give us $10. It could give us $300. I have no idea. I just sit and wait. Sit and wait. And sit and wait. That's the best we can do. We're just chilling like villains, hanging out. Lisa saw what has happened to El Salvador society, rendering it necessary to build a 40,000 capacity prison. El Salvador has the highest murder rates in the Western Hemisphere. We're looking at, in San Salvador, the murder rate is something like 90 or 100 per 100,000 per year, which is, it's like 20 times the rate of a major city like Seattle. MS-13 gangs, while MS-13 was started in America, it was started by El Salvadoran migrants or immigrants. And when those folks get deported for crimes, they get deported back to El Salvador, where the gangs slowly start to take over entire towns and regions and economies. So they have a giant prison basically to sort of deal with the huge gang problem that was a combination of forming in the U.S. and being made up of El Salvadoran immigrants. So yeah, their solution to that problem has been mass incarceration and possibly just the extrajudicial murder of gang members and leadership. It still has not actually, I think, done much. I think the criminal reporting in El Salvador is thumb on the scale by Bukele. El Salvador crime rates by year. All right, homicide rate seems like fake. So they're claiming that the murder rate was 107 a day in 2015 and has dropped to 1.9. So it went from the most violent society on earth to a murder rate the equivalent of a European nation. Bukele became president here when it was still 50, just 5 years ago. In just 5 years, all of a sudden, people in El Salvador just stopped murdering each other. I think that there's been some thumbs on the scale, juking the stats on this overall. I just don't see how you go from this violent of a society to all of a sudden people like, murder, that's wrong, right? Yeah, I just don't see that as being possible. So, it doesn't make any sense to me. But again, perhaps the mass incarcerations in these giant prisons have done that. If you look at a city like San Francisco, when California became U.S. territory in 1848, right? In 1849, 1849, Sutter's Mill discovered gold, and hundreds of thousands of people went across the country to go find their fortunes in California. The murder rates became insane. Actually, when I did my master's thesis in space studies, I actually looked at the lawlessness of the frontier California, and was doing a comparison to perhaps the lawlessness of frontier space when we're up there mining minerals and getting lots of money out of there. So places like Paradise Camp. So Paradise that's that town that had that huge fire that burned everything down and killed hundreds of people a few years ago. It was originally a gold mining camp. The murder rate in Paradise Camp was higher than the death rate in any battlefield in World War II. Meaning you had a higher chance of being murdered in your sleep at Paradise Camp than you did storming the beaches of Normandy. That's insane, right? Or being in the firebombing of Tokyo. Like the lawlessness was rampant. In places like San Francisco, there was one particular pier in Fisherman's Wharf that averaged something like 3 murders a night. This is a place that had a population at the time of maybe 25,000. So they're killing more than 1,000 people. So like 4% of their population died in murders on the pier in Fisherman's Wharf. And so one of the things they did, because it didn't have any law enforcement, there were no judges, there were no U.S. Marshals, there was no law enforcement whatsoever, is that the locals basically identified the 200 most likely culprits, and they sent out a posse. They gathered them all up, and they hung them all in the public square, all 200 of them, extrajudiciously, and they didn't get a murder for 3 months. So basically, there may have been some innocent people in those 200 that were hung, but the culprits of those murders were among those 200. And I think that's sort of perhaps the mentality or the idea behind the mass incarcerations in El Salvador is they might be innocent, but if we gather all of them, then the problem is at least behind there and the rest of society can be fine. But it does become a slippery slope to just imprisoning everybody type thing. And that's where it goes to. But I just don't buy it that you do that big of a drop in 10 years. The deadliest city in the U.S. is St. Thomas, and that is about 90 deaths per 100,000. Other places, like East St. Louis, place like that, are like 60. So 107 is that's like war zones have death rates like that. And this is all the result of the U.S. deporting gang members en masse to El Salvador without giving El Salvador any ability to do anything about these guys. So the folks in El Salvador, I guess, are just wrapping everybody up. Yeah. Lisa Saul says, "Happy Easter, Houston. Treat the pets, please." Oh. Are we leaning back? Are we getting a thing? Oh, does that interest you? Are you interested in this? Do you find this interesting? Yeah. Get it. There you go. Happy dog. Happy dog. You should probably take your thingy off, huh? It's been 24 hours. I'll take it off. a little later. Take your thingy off? Is that good? Yeah? Take it off? There we go. Yeah, take it off of there. You got your leg back. Yay. Get your thingy? Eat that thingy. Eat that thingy, monkey. Okay, I'm gonna do a couple more minutes here, and then I gotta go. I haven't gotten to the start of the show yet today. That's because I got started late downloading, but at least I'm on widescreen again, so we got that going for us. David Wright says the thumbnail is a super skinny, so that's got to be a good sign. Okay, and Chillface wants everyone to like this thing, and justified farting. Sure to miss the late night shows. I've been too able to do the daytime shows recently, so if people can mess up my daily schedule, then we'll get more nighttime shows out of us. Our friend is here. Sometimes Sommelier wants any thoughts on the MMTLP Freedom of Information Act requests. Talked about that the other day. The government's excuse that they won't give the evidence to George or others because their fear that people will use that evidence to then fake their own evidence doesn't really seem to hold water. And that should be something that gets slapped down by the courts or something. That seems to be stupid. Dustin Height says, watch, he'll be squished in landscape this time. That'd be hilarious. So it was just like... okay. What else we got here? Luminous Reflections, Happy Birthday Houston, seems part of BBBY suit against RC was dismissed. Drop part. What is your take on this? Oh, I did that already. My take is that he's not going to owe any money, and if he doesn't owe any money, then Goldberg's just going to drop it because he's there for the money, and if there's no money to be had, there's no point in spending any time on it. Justified farting, by the way, there is an asteroid in retrograde. It's in the Kuiper Belt. Oh, something going the wrong direction? Kuiper Belt's weird. The Kuiper Belt is askew items that have really big orbits because they're probably thrown that way due to interactions with larger planets inside the solar system. So they can do all sorts of weird things out there. That's why, like, you get the plane of the solar system where all the planets orbit in the plane. And the Kuiper Belt objects, which are just all over the place. They don't make any sense. They can be planetoids, and they can be protoplanets, but they won't be defined as planets because they don't dominate their orbit. Their orbit is too far out of circular, and they're generally too small. And so they can do weird things like orbit in the wrong direction, and so on. I don't know. Oriana Mosca, Tropicana orange juice costs $14 in Canada and no one is buying. American produce is replaced with Mexican produce. Yeah, don't buy it. Fuck Tropicana. Like, it's coming from Florida. Don't buy it. Buy Brazilian orange juice. Buy orange juice from Valencia. Buy something else. You don't need to buy these American products. And as an American, I say, good for you. Don't. Yeah. Big Z Zerp Houston, how does the derivative market work? Ask that again next show because I gotta go. It's gonna take too long to describe that. Money, bets, weirdness. That's basically the derivatives market. Okay, everybody. I'm glad I'm widescreen. You guys have a great weekend. I know I keep saying this. I'm gonna try and do a Twitch show. I was gonna do a Twitch show today instead of doing this regular show. I was like, I'm gonna do a Twitch show, but then the 16B case had a whole bunch of stuff dismissed, and I was like, I'll do a regular show. I haven't done Twitch in a while. I need to keep up on Twitch. I need to actually just sit down, do it, because people subscribe there, and I don't spend that much time over there. So anyway, you guys have a great day. I will see you guys Monday, hopefully with fantastic news or something. We'll see. Till then, stroke your chins, scratch your earlobes, poke your eyes, and pet your dogs. All right, later. Yeah. Oh, the butt scratch. Oh, the butt scratch. Oh,